Morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's edition of the MPC Markets Morning Call, 30th of January 2026. So we today will be month end, and yeah, what a first month of 2026. Trump coming out of the gates pretty hard. I think we've had a kidnapped sovereign leader. We were invading Greenland, then we were buying it, then we were just putting a military base there. We're bombing Iran again. Healthcare is getting gutted. We're rolling into a government shutdown on the weekend. The list just continues and continues and continues. So yeah, hopefully he doesn't keep this up, which is probably hope is the word for it. Because it's been pretty breakneck speed straight out of the first month. Obviously, last night, Microsoft disappointed, down 10% overnight. Meta was up 10%. So obviously advertising doing very well. Microsoft, it's all to do with the cloud and Azure. But down 10% on the back of things not growing as fast as... Not an accelerated growth, just a mildly accelerated growth. So probably a little bit harshly dealt with, I would have thought. But yeah, overall, I think the stench of OpenAI is really rubbing off on Microsoft at the moment. No one seems to be even remotely keen on dealing with OpenAI, doing deals with OpenAI except Microsoft anymore. The suspicion that Sam Altman could be the poster boy of an AI bubble or an AI fail that I wrote an article about 6 months ago is coming to fruition a little bit. Everyone doesn't want to deal with him anymore, and they're not leading any of the benchmarks anymore. And Google and Grok are the new favourites, etc., etc. So tying yourself to one in particular and getting 49% of that supposed $1 trillion IPO, which is absolutely no chance now. The IPO is still a chance, but whether the $1 trillion valuation is highly unlikely. So SpaceX and XAI also announced that they're going to do more than likely going to do a swap for stock and become one company. So that IPO is going to be enormous. This year as well, it was at $1.5 trillion based on SpaceX, but you add XAI and Grok in there, and I'd be frightened to think how much that costs. So that'll be massive. Tesla dropped 3.5 overnight. Nothing really out. It was up in the aftermarket yesterday. No one really cares about the earnings backwards. It's all about what's going to happen forwards. So I think the Tesla enthusiasts and the Tesla faithful probably bought it after the close yesterday. The realists and the people who still think it's a car company probably sold it overnight. So Apple was up 0.72 in the end, 0.28 in the aftermarket. Record number of iPhones. If I talk about it any longer, I'll fall asleep. It's Tim Cook and that company are pretty much the most boring. Most of the press and media around it have been that everyone is just genuinely surprised that they've managed to cling on to making this much money for so long after just a decade of no innovation. And even questions coming around when Tim Cook retires, whether he should be able to even groom his successor because shareholders don't want another boring CEO. But it's made good money. I think he's done his job, but Apple's a bit of an emotive stock, and the fanboys probably want their innovation back. Rightio, so Aussie, the Dow was largely flat. Everything was largely flat. Nasdaq was down 0.5. S&P's up 0.81 for the week. And probably lucky really to be there, I've got to say. It's just been a bit of a roller coaster overall. And in terms of stocks, with the end result being we're back where we started. So, we had gold just really skid to the upside yesterday, make 5,600 high or thereabouts. On the back of supposedly Trump saying he's going to bomb Iran again. Of course, that calmed down within 24 hours. You've got government shutdown coming over the weekend, which they're now calling a partial government shutdown, but it's still a government shutdown. Gold was up like 5 or 6% at about 9 o'clock in the morning, or 10 o'clock in the morning yesterday morning, and then it's given all that back. So, but still, incredible result for the week for gold, silver, platinum. Copper though, up 5% overnight, broke to new highs. That happened around about 1:30 in Sydney time yesterday. As look, been showing itself now as one of the key resources like crude and that people will scramble for if they think there's going to be some form of geopolitical situation involving the military. So I would, and there's more talk about supply gaps in copper and locking down supply chains. So I would expect that's going to gather momentum. I wouldn't be surprised if copper starts to show some serious momentum at some stage, because now the market's looking and picking at the seams on this supply gap and realising how big it is and how long it takes to get a copper mine going. And they're realising that, if Trump starts something here and invades a country or does something stupid, the first button they're pressing is buy copper before even oil, to be honest. But oil's had a decent week as well. That's probably one of the best weeks in crude I've seen for ages, up 10%. So Bitcoin drifted, uranium drifted, but uranium's just been on fire. And US dollar down 2% for the week, and probably lucky to be down 2%. We've got ExxonMobil, Aon, Regeneron tonight, PPI in the States, European employment, which no one will care about, and government. I think government shutdown by Sundays at 65%. Government shutdown odds are still around 80%. Earnings next week should be pretty good, actually. It'd be really there'd be some nice movements. I believe Palantir on Monday, AMD Tuesday, Google Wednesday, Amazon Thursday. You've got other pretty decent sized players in the healthcare sector like Pfizer, Merck, and Eli Lilly. Few of the European banks, UBS, Paribas, SocGen, which. Or you just generally, my general philosophy with European banks is just hope they don't screw something up majorly and don't really care about the upside. We got manufacturing and services PMIs next week as well. RBA rate decision, which will be huge for our market. ECB rate decision on Thursday, which no one's going to give any care about at all. And US employment numbers on Friday, which will be super important, I would imagine, on the direction of rates for the US. So I think we'll be really earnings focused. And if Trump can manage to maybe shut up for a week, we can actually focus on the market instead of his just erratic mood swings. Because everyone, I'm speaking on behalf of all brokers here, just shut up for a week, would you please? So I think there'll be, we've had some really good earnings results this morning as well. SanDisk and that memory chip shortage, blowout quarterly results and guidance. They absolutely smashed earnings, up 31% on the quarter to from 2 billion to like 3 billion, and after being up significantly over the course of last year, we're like. This stock's up 600% this year in the last 365 days, and despite being up 607%, it rallied a further 14% on the result. Western Digital in the same space, they beat estimates, but expectations were pretty elevated for that one. If you want to pick in this space, we may have one coming out for Monday earnings. So go to Mosaic and sign up there at mpcmarkets.com.au/Mosaic, or go to mosaic.mpcmarkets.com.au and maybe get your free recommendation for the memory chip stock that we are looking at for earnings next week. You can follow us on MPC Markets on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. But all of it's in Mosaic, and you can get our recommendations, which just quietly over the last month or so have been fairly good with this precious metals rally. So this is today and tomorrow are literally your last 2 days to get your 1 month free trial with all of the recommendation services. There are 4 of them: High Conviction, ASX, Alpha, Global Alpha, and High Conviction in Global and ASX. Plus, we've got some great structured investments, which have done extraordinarily well. And we've got some income investments coming up in February, similar to hybrids, called fixed coupon notes in the structured product space, yielding between 10 and 12% per annum. So if you've got hybrids, apart from the fact that they're delisting, these are just the same but better. So yeah, you'll find out all that on Mosaic as well. So this afternoon we will have Bulls versus Bears, our weekly podcast on markets, and you can catch that on any of those platforms or Mosaic as well. I'll be Jonathan Takadena, Kai, and myself. But if you're not going to listen to that, have a great weekend, people, and we'll speak again next week.
General advice warning. The content presented in this presentation is intended for informational purposes only and provides general advice only. It does not take into account your personal objectives, financial situation, or specific needs. This information should not be the sole resource when making investment decisions. We strongly recommend you seek the advice of a financial professional.